Well, hello, everyone. Guess what? We made it. It is 2021. First program, first episode. So here we are. Thanks for joining us on our first episode of Mondays with Mundy. And that's me, Jim Mundy, the historian for the Union League Legacy Foundation. So hopefully welcome back after a tough 2020. And 2021's got to get better, doesn't it? How can it not be any better? So we'll see what happens. Hey, we didn't have a mummers parade this year in Philadelphia because of the virus, and which means that the league didn't have its biggest event of the year, its annual open house on January the 1st. And so we're going to go take a little trip through memory lane and see what it was like at the league over these years, and kind of a little reminiscing, if you will, and maybe enjoying our own New Year's Day parade, at least viscerally. So we'll see what happens. So this is all for fun, folks. It's still good history, don't get me wrong. But here we go. Let's see what happens. So we're pulling up. Okay, so I just need one more thing to break. There we go. And we hit from the beginning. And here we go. All right. So New Year's Day at the league. Okay. Now, the first recorded instance of a New Year's Day celebration is that I've been able to find after all these years is that it was first held on January the 1st of 1896. So the league has been celebrating New Year's Day for quite a long time. So it's been around all these years. And by the way, we have only missed up until this year. We have only not held a New Year's Day celebration in 3 years, 1930, 31, and 32 during the Depression. So that's a pretty good track record. So let's get started, shall we? Now, this is the oldest photograph we have, at least in our collection, that shows a New Year's Day celebration in Philadelphia, a Mummers Day parade, if you will, on Broad Street. This is 1918, which means it was January the 1st, 1918, which means that World War I is going on. And in 1917, a league member purchased a deconsecrated Presbyterian church on the southwest corner at Broad and Spruce Streets. And that's what you see in the background there with a great big sign that says Soldiers and Sailors Annex of the Union League of Philadelphia. So what he did, and with the league's help, they turned it into a kind of a USO for soldiers. Dormitory space, cafeteria, so they got 3 hot meals a day, showers, shave, books, entertainment, you name it. It was all there for the soldiers and sailors coming through Philadelphia during World War I. And it gives you an idea of just what the mummers actually looked like. Now, keep in mind, the first Mummers Day parade in Philadelphia was on January the 1st of 1901. And from the very beginning, the league has been contributing something towards the prize money. And the league still does it after all of these years. So the league has been one of the longest supporters of the Mummers Day parade in Philadelphia. Pretty neat stuff. So that's 1918. Okay. Now, this is the first photograph we have of a New Year's Day event inside the building itself. And this is 1938. So it took us that long to get a photograph. So here we have past presidents of the league as they were on January the 1st of 1938. So from left to right, Frank M. Hart, E. Lawrence Fell, Edward Townsend Stotesbury, and then Judge Alan Stern with his arms crossed. He is actually the president of the league on that day in 1938. And then General William Price Jr., and on the far right, Robert Otto Heiligman. And you may remember from previous episodes back in October, November, prior to the election. Fell and Heiligman were presidents when there was a lot of brouhaha about league members supporting Democratic presidential candidates. Oh my! So, and those are those two gentlemen there. That's 1938, oldest photograph we have in the collection. So this is 1941, and this is a tradition that has been ongoing, I believe, from what I can tell, from almost the very, very beginning. And that is where the board of directors has a receiving line, and members of the league walk through and meet and greet the new president, the vice presidents, and the board members themselves on New Year's Day. And it's a tradition that has continued to the very present. So that's what it looks like. And boy, tons of ferns and flowers and stuff like that. So clearly it's a shame it's not in color. Beautifully green, I'm sure. You can see what it looks like. So that's 1941. Okay. And then here we have the 1960s version of the receiving line itself. Now, you can tell we've changed rooms, and if you saw an episode just a few weeks ago, you'll notice that this is the Lincoln Memorial Room. So there's the east wall to the right, the fireplace in it, and you can see the members, again, walking along the receiving line and shaking hands and greeting the new president, vice presidents, and board members and things like that, because we have an election every year. So the modern day process is that the president's elected for 2 consecutive one-year terms, vice presidents for 4 years, and the board members, of which there are 3 classes, 5 members each, and they serve for 3 years. So there's always somebody new every year in the receiving line. Okay, and then this, again, we're talking about 1963, 64 at this point in time. Again, we're still in the Lincoln Memorial. You can tell because of the stained glass windows. And geez, from left to right, the gentleman about to put his hand out is Robert Fulton, whose father was the president of the league in 61 and 62. I'm sorry, 63, 64, right after Thomas B. McKay. It's J. Victor O'Brien, the taller gentleman there. I don't know who the gentleman is in front of that torchère there, but then you have George Broadhead, a future president of the league, Jack Hesketh with the carnation and his lapel, also a future president of the league. And then on the far right, George Ewing, who only served on the board of directors. He was an architect. Hesketh was the president of Jacob Reed and Son, right? The great haberdashery on Philadelphia and Chestnut Street, and Mr. Broadhead was a lawyer. So, and then with all these people in the clubhouse, and any given time we're talking maybe 1,500 to 1,800 at this point in time. Well, they had to eat and they had to drink. And so this is the South Marble Room, and it is set up for drinking because that's what we do a lot of at the league on New Year's Day, right? And if anybody's ever been there, you know what that's like. And of course, the specialty of the house on New Year's Day, actually there are 2. One is the Fish House Punch, a wonderful old traditional drink in Philadelphia, and then of course Union League Specials, which are a variation of the Fish House Punch itself. So, and the first thing that they run out of every year is Fish House Punch, not surprisingly. So there you go, and that's the, so again we're talking 1965, and here we have Lincoln Hall in 1965, and you can see the chef there. That's Peter Grassi with the toque that he's wearing there. On the right-hand side, to 2 people down the right-hand side is Chuck Gilman, who was at the league when I went there in 1978. So he was in the food and beverage department, banqueting department. And the gentleman on the far, far right was Roland Tinsley, and he was there in 1978 as well, worked into the 1980s, as did Chuck. So they were there for many, many years. So that's 1965 at Lincoln Hall. And here we have the same New Year's Day event. You can see the members lining up. Obviously, they're lined up to get their food because everybody who's not in line is eating. So, and you can see Chef Grassi there in the background under the chandelier with his arms folded, overseeing the events that day. So it's all good stuff there. So that's what it looked like. It's going to get more crowded as years go on, and you'll watch. Here we go. All right. So this is 1966. And now look at the swarm of members in Lincoln Hall. Just hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And they can't eat fast enough. Specialties were always, what do we have? Oyster stew. They had a seafood stew. They had rice croquettes. We did lobster Newburgh. I mean, you name it, they ate it. And they had a great time with it. Don't forget the snapper soup. How could we forget snapper soup and things like that? So a hungry crowd, thirsty crowd, and you can see the size of it here. And here we have another view of Lincoln Hall on a New Year's Day. Pretty amazing stuff. So, and again, as I say, on average, probably about 1,600 people. Sometimes it's up to 1,800. All right. And then another receiving line, because and this one is from the late 1960s. Early 1970s, I beg your pardon. On the left-hand side, you have Stanley Root. In the middle, Robert Wilder. And on the far right-hand side, Maurice Webster. Root and Wilder would become future presidents of the league. Mr. Webster did not become a president of the league, although he spent many years on the board of directors and was a member of the league for close to 60, 65 years. But he only died recently, about 2 or 3 years ago. And he was, I think, 100 years old. So really wonderful. I just love the expression of Wilder's face in that one. So it's good. And another tradition at the league is having a board photograph taken. So this is 1967 when J. Permore Richards became the youngest president in the league history until Greg Montanaro succeeded him just a few years ago. Greg was only in this early 42 or 44. I'm sure Greg will let me know how old he was at that point in time. And that is Mr. Richards in the front row seated, second from the right. So you can see the board behind him. And again, in the Lincoln Memorial Room itself. And this is a tradition that we still do today. And of course, none of this happens without the help of the staff, which was run by the general manager, Dan Lehman. And that's Mr. Lehman on the left-hand side with then President Ed Dwyer. And Mr. Dwyer was president in 1973 and 1974. And that is then in the Lincoln Memorial Room. So it was nice that Mr. Dwyer had his photograph taken with Dan Lehman. So. And of course, with all those people in the house, after they eat and they drink, you have to be entertained. And so here's the main hallway in the Broad Street building. And you can see this van in the 1960s, just playing music to entertain everybody. So, and believe it or not, when I went to the league in 1978, we had the same hallway carpet. What are you going to do? Very, very thrifty people at the league. So, but a great day, though. You can see, obviously, these guys are having fun themselves as well. So, love the instruments, the variety of the instruments. And here they are again. And so we're in the same hallway. That is the south wall, forgive me, off to the right-hand side, because we're looking east, from west to east, towards the Broad Street door, which is through that glass partition that you see there. So, all right. And here we have the same hallway, the same wall, the same view, only 30 years later. This is 1993, and that's Mike Francis at the piano, and his combo for years and years and years, I mean decades, played on New Year's Day in the hallway. And off to the left-hand side. Now, here's the photograph that shows the first big difference between what we just seen and what we're seeing now. Well, what's the difference? It's not men only anymore, is it? If you hadn't noticed it, in all the previous photographs, it was stag, males only. And that began to change in the early 1980s. And here we have 1993 with Dr. Thomas and his Mervine and his wife, Frances Mervine, having a little dance, playing, as the music plays behind them. So the idea is just to have fun. And why not? This is, again, 1993 up in Lincoln Hall. And again, if you hadn't noticed in all the old black and white photographs, there were no young people in those photographs either. You had to be a member of the league, or at least an adult guest of a member. And so if you weren't probably at least in your 30s, you probably didn't get in. And I remember when I first went to the league, that's pretty much the way it was. And then they would lower the age to 16. And then it's gotten a lot lower. We'll see about that in just a minute. So here we have 1996. And this is a poster that was actually hand-painted by a league member named Reggie Beauchamp, who worked for the Bulletin for years and years and years and years in Philadelphia. Really quite a character, Mr. Philadelphia himself in many, many ways. And he would make these banners for the league for all these different occasions and stuff like that. So, and he was just a really good guy. So that's 1996. And here we have 1997. So you can see how black and white photography again, but my, how the age limit has decreased. This is Bill Denny and his wife and their newborn son. And if you're wondering where Bill went to college, you'll just take a look at the cap on his young son there, and you'll know. Bill's no longer a member of the league, unfortunately. He's a really good guy. So you can see how now we have babies in the league on New Year's Day, and why not? And just look at the look on Bill's face. You can see he's a proud father. So this is 2002 in Lincoln Hall. So you can see how we're still doing the same thing after all these years. Lots of food, lots of beverage, and lots of fun. And that's what it's all about. So 2004. Okay. Ice carvings became really big, and actually in the 1990s, and we continue to do them to this day. So this was on top of a seafood buffet, but at least now we know what year it is. And this is Broad Street. So finally, we're going to see some mummers, and why not? So this photograph was taken from the front portico of the league on Broad Street in 2004, and you can see the string band coming up the street, and those are all league members in front of the house, sitting in chairs and sometimes even in bleachers, which is what we do nowadays. So It's a shame we didn't hear it this year. Here we go. The Union League salutes the mummers. And again, looking at the Broad Street building, and the gentleman in the center with the carnations lapel is the then president, Dan Gilmella. And he had a blast doing as president. He would be out there with a microphone and introduce the string bands as they would come up Broad Street and things like that. He had a lot of fun with it. And why not? It was a fun day. So another view. These are just all members. You can see them going up the stairs. Some with drinks. You have hot chocolate, champagne, you name it. It was served that day. And another, you can see the string band in the background with some comics in front. But you see that gentleman in the very bottom of the photograph reaching across the barrier to shake hands with League members. Anybody recognize him? Okay. Philadelphia Mayor John Street. All right. So he was having fun as well. So it was nice of him to come over and to say hello to the League members as they were marching the parade on Broad Street. And other things have changed inside the house as well. So you can, boy, what a big difference for the 1960s, isn't it? So now we have children. We have a whole room that's put aside just for children and families. They have all different kinds of kids' entertainment. Of course, balloon hats and balloon figures and stuff like that. And, of course, face painting. I put this in because of that. I love the Spider-Man in the lower right-hand corner. That's such a great thing to do on New Year's Day. I couldn't pass this one up. So. And here we have, now we're back probably in what is now the mead room. So it's on the first floor at 15th Street end of the clubhouse. And just bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. And lots of kids all having fun. So, as you can see, it's different, isn't it? It's amazing how much the lake has changed in just the time that I've been there. So, I hope you're enjoying this. And now up to 2009. Back on Broad Street again, and why not? That's what it's all about. It's all about what goes on Broad Street. So there you go. Here we have string band coming up, marching band coming up Broad Street, passing the clubhouse in the background there. And what a better view of the New Year's Day parade than that one right there. Really great stuff. And inside the house, traditionally, actually, some of the early marching bands, when they finish, will come into the clubhouse and they'll march through the house and play some bands, and they'll go to Lincoln Hall, where they've set up a stage towards the end of the day, and they'll play music to the members in Lincoln Hall itself. So this is them at the end of the day, and it's a very appropriate message, isn't it? Happy New Year. And this again was 2009. And then for the last photograph, this is the board photograph from 2019. Okay, so you can see that, as I said, we still do it every year. And the gentleman in the center there is Charles Davidson. He is the immediate past president of the league. He was president in 2019 and 2020, and it was on his watch that the COVID virus took place. So the second year of his presidency was rather challenging, but still, the league pulled through in every way you can imagine. And in the front row, third from the left, is Mr. Craig Mills, who is the new president of the league. And unfortunately, he didn't get to do this on his first New Year's Day as president, but I'm sure that they will do something for him when the first chance becomes available, and I'm sure he'll do it in 2021 or 2022. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that a quick romp through the league on New Year's Day to see how we celebrate and how much fun we have and how much we enjoy ourselves. So thank you for joining us. Hopefully we'll have some more fun stuff over the course of 2021, and we'll all get a little saner, I hope, as the year goes on. And it's still a little tough out there, folks. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay well, and Happy New Year, everyone. See you next week.